Golf has first blood this morning. Good morning, everybody. So
Good
I've got
morning.
Mario on again. We're going to be talking about some stuff that's going on in world politics. And Mario's my guy. So Mario, I was actually a little surprised the other day to hear you say I'm not as smart on. You said that you're not as smart on the judicial stuff. And hey, you know what? I'm great on the judicial stuff.
Mhm.
I'm pretty good on the international stuff, but guys, Mario is a freaking encyclopedia on this stuff. Mario is plugged in on international politics in a way that I
Good.
like. I do good. I'm pretty smart, and I follow international politics heavily. But Mario makes me feel like I'm reading C Spot Run with his encyclopedic collection of understanding on the topics.
See,
So,
Chris has set me up like T-ball. Little does he
fuck
know.
yeah.
Little does he know. I got benched when I was 6 years old for striking out at T-ball.
I had to quit playing soccer when I was 11 because
You were injuring the children. Yes, I know.
I don't I, you wouldn't think of a big guy like me as a runner. Really, I'm bad at stopping.
Yeah. No, you're quick. You just have a low top speed. That's all.
Remember running the hills in Monterey? I'm not done yet.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris is surprisingly quick off the line. Okay, for a big man, all right. Like that first 40 yards, he can actually get you. I've seen it before where he chased after me, and I'm just like, what you gonna do, Chris? And I turn around, and he's like literally right on my ass. I'm like, oh shit, fucking hell. Once I get into third gear, then I'm gonna smoke Chris. But yeah, the first two gears, you got to be careful.
God, remember running the flippin' flight line at Goodfellow?
Yeah, I remember breaking my ankle in a freaking pothole.
Yeah, I'd rather run 4 miles on a track than 2 miles on a flight line because it's just straight. It's like driving.
No,
It's like driving
no,
across Texas. It's just
I'm
there's
I'm the
nothing.
opposite. I'm the opposite of you. I prefer the straightaway. Okay, I don't care how boring it is because I just put my brain into freaking cruise control mode, and I don't think and just run. Whereas with the track, I have to maintain a slight bit of brain capacity to adjust for the curvature. Okay, and every little bit of oxygen that I don't have to spend on my brain helps me run because I fucking hate running. I don't think I've
Just
run. I
it's just
haven't run
you get to the end of the flight line, you vomit, you turn around, and you run back.
November 1st. November 1st, 2017 was my last day in the army, and that was also the last day I ran.
Yeah, mine was in 2012,
Yep.
May 23rd, I think it was. Yeah.
Pat, Chris's mic is just fine. Okay, enough. Enough. Don't be like Cameron. Don't be Cameron. Don't be Cameron offering tech support sniper fire. Okay, we will talk.
So
We don't
we're,
play
we're
that.
gonna we're gonna open with a little bit of I gotta get the cans in here and a jar of loose quarters so that I can drop one in and say Trump was right.
Well, let me just before you play it, let me just preface it. Okay, the last time we touched Syria was in December of last year, and we did like a roll up of basically how that country collapsed and how the Assad regime fell so rapidly. How
There
the
we go.
Assad regime collapsed in at like lightning speed, right? And the shock from the world as to how this could happen. Well, um, obviously, history does not stop, and things have been happening in Syria since then. None of it good, of course. And today we're going to try to revisit that.
So
So,
I just shrank the video down back into the out of the big player view so you guys can read. This article is from or this video is from 2015, I think.
Yes, this is
And
from 2015, and this is Trump talking to us, an ultra smuggy CNN reporter about, what are we doing? What are we doing in Syria? How do we know that this is going to turn out for the best? Okay, because this is during the Obama administration, and please understand, the collapse and decade of human degradation that has occurred in Syria was fully supported, fully like financed, all right, and directed by the Obama administration, all right. Another piece of Obama's legacy, if you will, for the world. All right. So this is Trump commenting on the Obama administration's actions in Syria in 2015. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
well, and got a couple more things I want to tag real quick before we get any further into it. Because of this Chiron headline, Trump sides with Putin in fight against ISIS. Remember, we just said this is in
Shit ain't new.
2015.
The shit
This
ain't
is
new.
yeah, this is before the Russian narrative, the Russia narrative, right?
Yeah.
But it was after the incident where Romney and Obama were having their debate, and Obama said the 1980s called. They want their foreign policy back.
Yeah, that was a
And of
funny quote.
course, today, if you ask a Democrat, Russia is the single greatest threat on the planet,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
Sergeant Major says he was in Germany that week. Syrian protesters were in the streets and train stations, right? And so, yeah, here you go.
So I've watched Assad, and I've watched a little bit on the other side. The problem is the other side of Assad, we have no idea who they are.
So
They
he's better than
probably
that.
are ISIS. I'm saying, are we better off with Assad? We have no idea who these people are. We give them weapons, we give them ammunition, we give them everything. Aaron, we have no idea who. I mean, maybe it's worse than Assad. So what are we doing? Why are we involved? We have to get rid of ISIS, very importantly. But I look at Assad, and Assad to me looks better than the other side. And this has happened before. We back a certain side, and that side turns out to be a total catastrophe.
Yep.
Russia likes Assad seemingly a lot. Let them worry about ISIS. Let them fight it out. So I've watched Assad.
Let them worry about ISIS. Let them fight it out.
Mhm.
And what happened when Donald Trump came into office? Almost overnight, ISIS was eliminated.
That's because we worked not like officially, not like in doctrine signed on paper. Okay, but we did. What was that? Explosions?
I'm not sure if that was a thunderclap or if a freaking tractor trailer just fell off the bridge into my river.
Why don't
You
you go,
keep talking. I'm going to go look.
yeah, why don't you go take a peek outside? That sounded dramatic. All right. So part of the reason ISIS collapsed so rapidly after Donald Trump won office the first time was because we kind of passively worked with the Russians to eliminate them. Okay, and not like officially on paper. We didn't have like joint command. All right, joint SOP stuff like that, but just simple stuff like uh, basically ISR deconfliction. Okay, like basically telling the Russians where our aerial assets are going to be. They would tell us where their aerial assets are going to be, and we could more or less create like an overlapping, basically talking guns, if you will, in infantry terms. Okay, where we fire, then they fire, then we fire, then they fire. Okay,
Right.
and just making sure we don't get in each other's way and dealing splash damage to each other. So we did unofficially work with Russia during the first Trump administration to exterminate ISIS, and it was a pretty damn good partnership, I might add. So what Trump is talking about here is basically it's a question that in hindsight, yeah, Trump is absolutely right. Like, look at what happens when we do regime change, especially particularly in the Middle East. Okay. Um, does that actually result in a net increase in peace, security, economic development, foreign trade? Okay, all the things that are hallmarks of the so-called rules-based global order, right? No, 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 it doesn't. Okay, because you have Assad. Sure, he is an autocrat, right? But Assad also the Assad regime is able to maintain some semblance of an economy when they are not being sanctioned unto oblivion by European and American interests. All right. Also, the Assad regime protects the religious and ethnic minorities of the country. remember from the, go ahead and if you want to put up that single slide image if you want, Chris. Assad, I mean, Syria is a very fragile kind of loose knit tapestry of different ethnic groups, okay, and different religious groups, okay. Most everyone is Islamic, but it's no surprise at this point that it doesn't take much to get different factions of Islam to start slaughtering each other because, well, it's just Islam gonna Islam, right? So now, but yeah, Assad protected the religious and ethnic minorities in Syria from basically the barbarity of the Sunni horde, okay, the caveman horde crawling out of the desert. Let's see, what's another autocrat in the Middle East who did the same thing? Oh, Saddam Hussein, right?
Oh, what do you know?
Saddam Hussein was a bad guy, but also Saddam Hussein protected the religious minorities of the country, with the exception of the Shia. Okay, Saddam Hussein went fucking hard on the Shia because basically they viewed Iran as an existential threat, and they were correct. Okay, but the Christian population of Iraq and then the small Jewish population of Iraq at the time, prior to the deposal of Saddam in 2003, they worked with the Saddam regime because they were a small, stable, economically developed, and reliable, educated, that's a key, that's key here, educated group of people that Saddam could basically use and who were beneficial to any sort of economy that involves international trade, right? Well, let's look at Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, okay, also tried to hold together a fragile tapestry, all right, of different peoples within a country, and prevent the slaughter of religious and ethnic minorities from the Sunni horde. All right, and of course he was deposed. And what happened after that? Well, unchecked illegal immigration into Europe and open air slave markets in Libya. So, as you can just see, just based on what's been going on in the last 20 years, okay, within the lifespan of pretty much anyone watching this show, U.S. government policy, okay, and U.S. policy for basically regime change in the Middle East has been an unmitigated fucking disaster since the beginning of the war on terror, and some could argue even before that.
I was about to say definitely before that. I mean,
Yeah.
We toppled Saddam before the quote unquote war on terror.
Yeah. All right. Now, if you look at this map here right now, remember, if y'all remember, we talked about that mustard green kind of color right there in the center of the map. That is the Hayat Tahrir, whatever. I don't speak Arabic. I don't care. Those guys, we call them hats. Okay, that is the current faction in power in Syria. All right, and what's been going on this past week was they started initiating essentially terror attacks, large-scale terror attacks, and genocidal attacks against the people in red that you see, who are the coastal parts of the country. The blue people down below, all right, the blue people, those are basically U.S.-backed terrorists. They have more or less coalesced with the mustard green people.
That's where U.S. aid was sending all the MREs.
Yeah. Oh, I have no doubt. And then in the northeastern part of the country, the Hats, or the current regime in Syria, have effectively signed a truce with them, meaning that they are now basically the sole problem of the Turks, because the Turks hate those people. All right, basically Syria is basically a gangbang victim. Okay, and it's not stopping at any time soon. So, all right, you want to pull up that article, or maybe you want to provide some color commentary regarding the Middle East?
No, I don't have anything else to add to that in particular, but I need a second to swap out the screen share there.
Sergeant Major, it was the CIA under Obama did, yes.
Yes.
In concert with big tech at the time, most notably Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook.
Zuckerberg, and that's one of those, the Arab Spring activity. That's one of those things where USAID funded NGOs played a huge role in the community organizing. Right, Obama famously told us over and over again that he came up as a community organizer. That was his job, his profession. What a community organizer is somebody who gets paid by USAID to create astroturfed happenings and protests and riots. And so, yeah, he was involved there, and USAID funded NGOs were largely responsible for the happening of the Arab Spring.
Yeah, USA is effectively a secondary pot of money, all right, that can be accessed by the CIA and affiliates to implement regime change worldwide, 100%.
And they keep it they keep it politically clean for the purposes of public image by couching all these NGOs in names like, People's Liberation, the Society for Freedom, stuff like that. Right? It's always the Coalition for Democracy, the Organization for Democratic Reform, et cetera, et cetera. They're terrorist groups.
Oh yeah, and I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, moving on. So you want to pull up that article?
I do. In fact, I have pushed buttons, and now we're waiting on the thing is working slowly. So tell you what, stay with me a second.
We got a couple good comments here from Dark Woods Presents.
Excellent. Right. You read comments. Oh, there it is. Go ahead and read the comment that you were going to read, and then we'll move on.
Sure. Darkwoods talks about how we looked the other way while Ukraine burned down the trade building with the people inside and killed the people who tried to escape. Yeah. And we looked the other way while Ukraine did chemical and biological weapons testing in eastern Ukraine. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, that trade building. But yeah, the U.S. established biological biolabs in eastern Ukraine. That is one of the main low key reasons that triggered Russia to invade the country. Okay.
Yes.
I remember reading some very, very disturbing reports back in 2022 about the biolabs researching essentially haplogroup or genetic specific gene targeting bioweapons. All right. That were specifically designed to basically kill Russians, okay, or kill Eastern Slavic people, all right, whatever the haplogroup type that you have predominantly in Russia. I'm not sure how true it was, but based on the silence, I'm going to assume there was some. I'm going to assume someone was trying to cover something up. But yeah, good.
There was a television series, Mario. I don't know if you ever watched it, called Fringe. It's a little bit older series, but early 2000s, I'd say. And what
was it called?
Fringe.
No.
Thou shalt not infringe. It was Fringe.
Yeah.
So it was all about fringe science. You had the spate of police procedurals where you got the strong woman cop and the dorky, weird, nerdy guy. This was kind of in that spirit, except the guy wasn't dorky and weird. The dorky, nerdy kid, he was a genius, but he was kind of a badass international ne'er-do-well that was running around the world scamming terrorists and making his money that way. And his father was a mad scientist. And there was an episode, so the whole series was about these guys investigating mad science, like crazy stuff. So a lot of the episodes would take some MK Ultra stuff where you got some shit that we know really, really happened, and then kind of drag it into the fantastical and science fiction realm to make the show really, really interesting. And one of the episodes, the bad guy was experimenting with gene targeting, and he would make this a powder basically, and he'd have it in what looked like a tea bag for testing. And he'd go into a coffee shop and order a cup of hot water and sit down and drop the tea bag in the cup of hot water. And then all of a sudden, everybody with blue eyes in the restaurant would just drop dead. Right. And And so, and the way they pieced it together eventually and figured out what was happening, and they'd get to the scene, they'd investigate the murder. It's like, oh wait, everybody, all of the dead bodies have blue eyes. Oh, all of these dead bodies have the same genetic disorder. All of et cetera, et cetera. And it turned out he was the character was refining his technique so that he could target a specific genetic marker. He was a Nazi. He was a Nazi scientist that was trying to create basically a bioweapon that targeted Jews genetically, right? And that episode of that show happened. I think it came out in like maybe 2010, 12 at the latest. I think it was earlier than that. But yeah, so when we started hearing the rumblings about the biolabs in eastern Ukraine and the stuff you were talking about with the genetic targeting, it's like it's one of those like, yeah. It's like, remember when we saw the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats, and then they declassified all the MK Ultra shit, and we're like, yeah.
Yeah,
Like, we're running out of conspiracy theories that haven't been declassified and guaranteed true.
Yeah, there's always an overlap between fact and fiction, all right? And whether it's coincidence or synchronicity, I guess we'll never know. I guess it's just part of the mimetic landscape, I suppose.
Yeah, meat magic is a terrifying thing. Yes.
Yes, it is.
So we've got this article related to the Syrian, the crisis in Syria as it has exacerbated. West-backed jihadists in Syria massacre over 1,000 Alawite and Christian men, women, and children. Aaron Olson says that episode aired in 2010. Thanks, Aaron. See, like I said, yeah, that's 15 years ago. And of course, we started hearing about the biolabs in Ukraine, like actually hearing about it, not just finding it mentioned in obscure white papers, but actually hearing it reported in the news. What, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
So, Mario, this is your article. So
sure. All right. After several days of radical Sunni Islamic militants targeting religious minorities in Syria for mass killings, mainly in the coastal areas, the mainstream media has belatedly begun to cover it, as the killings are growing to the point where it's getting too hard to ignore. Some correspondents estimated that there are thousands of dead and wounded, mostly Alawites, but also Syrian Christians among them, as post-Assad Syria unravels after Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which we refer to as HATS for simplicity here. Right. The death toll from 2 days of clashes between Syrian security forces and loyalists of ousted President Bashar Assad and revenge killings that followed have risen to more than 1,000, a war monitoring group said Saturday, making it one of the deadliest acts of violence since Syria's conflict began 14 years ago, the Associated Press reports. The jihadists, which include foreign fighters as well as ruling HATS members, in some cases are simply going into homes of non-Sunnis and massacring entire families. The terrorists haven't been shy about uploading their killings on the internet as well as in live stream. Men, women, children, and even babies are being brutally murdered. All right? So let's think about that for a moment. Think about the absolute barbarity of that. Going into essentially what they're doing is now most people in these coastal areas, okay, they don't like own their own home or have their own property, okay. Most people live in like large stack and pack style, like condominium or apartment structures, right? So they're going into the apartment buildings,
like Connex dominiums.
Yeah, right. Well, this is, to be fair, this coastal area. This is like the wealthiest part, okay, of Syria, and one thing that always happens when there's a revolution is it doesn't matter what religion is involved or whether there's no religion or if it's anti-religion like communism. It's always the same thing. You always target basically the people who were doing well under the previous regime for reprisal. Okay, that's a universal. Okay, when it comes, whether it's the French Revolution or the Khmer Rouge. Okay, it does not matter. Communism going to communism. Okay,
so right, you got to take out the bourgeoisie.
Yep. So yeah, they're going into apartment block complexes and condominiums, and just going floor by floor and gunning down entire families, men, women, and children, who are not Sunni Muslims, which is the predominant religion of the country. Well, I mean, it shouldn't surprise you, okay? And sadly, we become all too accustomed to this type of behavior amongst Islamic, amongst Sunni and Shia Islamic groups. Okay, I was in Iraq. I was an Iraq War veteran. Okay, so there were death squads going back and forth. All right, while I was there, where the Sunni mobs and Shia mobs would just go into communities and just commit basically mass murder. Like what happens when a society completely breaks down to the point where it's basically cannibal zombie barbarism. All right, but the majority of these type of actions in the Middle East take place. It's usually the Sunnis, okay, who are the ones committing the massacre. Right now,
Yeah, in Afghanistan, it wasn't uncommon for local power to change when one group or the other would come into a community and just, you know what, we're going to be in charge now, so we'll kill all the police and put on their uniforms. We're the police now.
yeah, yep. That's exactly what happened in Syria. Okay,
Yeah,
and it would have been possible.
and understand, I'm not. That's not like metaphoric. I mean, literally, they come in, they kill all the police they can find, literally take their uniforms and put them on and say, we are the police now.
Or if it's the Obama administration, you get brand new uniforms sent to you, courtesy of the U.S. taxpayer.
Yeah, we saw that shit happen a couple times too. Talk about infuriating.
I deeply resent that the majority of my military service was done under the Obama administration. I just want you
Same
to know
here.
that.
Same here.
If you're listening, Washington, D.C., I deeply fucking resent that. All right. If you scroll down a little bit more of this article, it shows. I'm not going to go into the.
You at least got a few years under the Donald.
Like one.
Oh yeah, one. You got 1 year under the Donald. I went from Bush the Lesser to fucking Bumma.
Mm-hmm. That's true. It was a. Yeah, I remember. I remember sitting in a Buffalo Wild Wings in Texas in 2008, watching those election returns come in, and I'm just,
oh god, yeah.
I'm like, well, it's gonna be a. Oh man, talk about getting the wind taken out of your sails. Like I finally finished 3 years of freaking training, okay, to finally like be. You're a real soldier now, and you know what I mean?
Yep. And we had soldiers standing out in quads outside of dorms and barracks in the middle of. I say dorms because we were at an Air Force base at the time, standing outside. After the results came in and started shouting, "Yes, we can! Yes, we can!"
Mm-hmm.
And Goodfellas. Oh my god.
NPCs, man. NPCs.
Yep.
I mean, it was Obama. Like, remember the. You know what? What time is it? Yeah, we can do a little sidebar. Remember when Obama got elected? Some of the insane takes you were getting from lefties. Remember that woman who was talking about like, I don't have to pay my mortgage anymore. I don't have to worry about.
Yeah. I got my Obama phone.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there are certain events in history that you should be. I mean, it's terrible that they happen, but you should be grateful because they provide an immediate screening, okay, to let you know who is an NPC, a non-player character. And I assume everyone in our audience understands that concept, and people who are not. Obama's election was an NPC indicator. Black Lives Matter and COVID-19, Syria were NPC like indicators. Okay, you can separate. Separate who is who. So there are certain events in history that are deeply polarizing like that allow you to separate.
For our older audience members, we should do.
Aaron Olson, absolutely, there are NPCs in the military.
Oh yeah, there are. Me? Absolutely.
None are immune.
Mario, we need to do a show where we play a game, some kind of MMO type of game, where we can both be playing at the same time and they can see us both on screen and go around and interact with characters to help our older viewers understand what NPCs really are. Like, no, this is what we mean when we say these people, they don't have individual intelligent thoughts. They run on a script.
Yep.
They literally run on a script that's handed to them.
Correct.
So
My potions are too strong for you, stranger. My favorite NPC. Anyway, so I'm not going to get into the anecdote here, but it's the Bania family. All right, they were Shia, and it was here. I'll give you the brief, basically recap. A dentist, okay, and his fiance, who was a pharmacist, all right, were those caught up in the slaughter. Okay, think about that. A dentist and a pharmacist, all right. So the educated middle class of Syria, the type of people that you would need to make any type of society work. All right. Well, Sunni Islam really doesn't give a shit. Okay, it's a purity spiral that always results in death with these people. So they are slaughtering the educated kind of like, as Chris said earlier, the bourgeois, if you will, elements of society. This is just going to result in a further degradation of whatever the human development index is of Syria. Okay, it's already abysmal for the majority of the country. All Syria is basically a barbaric caveman brutalist wasteland. All right, where there are several pockets of people who essentially manage to cling to civilization, and now those outposts of civilization are, of course, under threat. This is because you have to understand Islam is communism. Okay, Islam is communism,
Yep.
wearing a Abrahamic religion as a skin. Okay, but it follows the exact. It is a lowest common denominator, reducing a phenomenon. All right, um, under Islam, basically, which means submission. Everything must conform to whatever dictates to the dictates of Islam. Okay, and Islam isn't really a really well organized, codified, form of religion. If you look in the Quran, some of the tracks from the later part of the Quran versus the tracks from the beginning, from the initial parts of the Quran, it completely contradicts each other. There's no logic behind it whatsoever. There's all kinds of anecdotes in it about Muhammad basically doing some weirdly bizarre, like apocryphal stuff that somehow gets codified into the norms and behaviors of the average Islamic practitioner. It's like schizophrenic fascism with an economic lens of communism. All right, Islam in my opinion, Islam has been a scourge upon humanity ever since it was birthed in the Arabian Peninsula in like 600 AD. Much in the same way as communism has been a scourge on humanity ever since it was born in the 1800s in Europe, right? But yeah, moving on here. By the way, I'd be in jail in the UK right now for saying that.
Yeah, they'd be knocking on the door.
Yeah. Speaking of Euro cucks, why don't we scroll down a little bit? Let's see what.
No, but real quick. So your point about Islam is communism, and the attacking the bourgeois, like we were saying.
Yeah.
And we've seen this over and over again. The collectivist farms, the China, the Khmer Rouge. Every time it happens every time. It's we're seize the means of production, and what that means is take from those who have. Right. The conservative mindset sees the rich guy on the yacht surrounded by beautiful women and says, "What do I have to do to earn my way to living that life?" And even if I don't make it that far, if I set that goal and I work in that direction and I enjoy even a piece of that success, then hell yeah. And that was the heroic image that I followed, that I used to craft myself in the vital work of selfing, in an almost Kierkegaardian struggle to choose a Christ figure and then model myself to be more like that. The communist and by extension the Islamist, the Democrat, right, etc. What they see is someone is happy. Someone is happy, and they should die for that.
Yeah.
Someone is happier than I am. I don't want to be as happy as that person is. I want them to suffer like I do.
Yeah. All leftist politics are the politics of resentment. Yes, 100%. In fact, human happiness in a happy society, communism is impossible. All right. That's why I say communism just, and same with Islam. Okay, if you had a happy, prosperous society, people are not gonna convert to Islam. All right, where it's going to basically reduce their quality of existence to essentially what the bare minimum, to like the bare minimum access to, like, fuck, I kind of lost that one. Anyway, like I said, let's scroll down a little bit and let's see what the Euro cucks are talking about here.
Wow, that is the face of a Euro cuck right there.
Yeah, it's a real son of Albion right there. Don't you have the little inset from Twitter?
Did I scroll past it?
Maybe you did. No, or it doesn't show up in reader mode. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, so the European.
Well, here I can switch it off reader mode and this.
No, down. Go down more. Scroll down more.
No, I got you. Hold on a second. Are you talking? Okay.
There. This is incredibly shameful. Okay. So
okay, got it.
The European Union released a statement condemning the pro-Assad elements. All right. For their part in basically in the massacres that have been occurring in Western Syria. Right. Think about the audacity of that. Now let's put it in perspective. Less than 10% of the population would fall under the under the populations of the Alawite, who were the secular Shia minority government. Okay, the Alawite tribe. Okay, Assad was one of them. Assad is from them. Okay, they're kind of secular Shia. All right, and they were allied with Iran, right? And then the Christians, all right, and then the Druze, who are kind of like kind of like a weird mismatch of various Abrahamic religions, to include a splash of Zoroastrianism. Okay, but we're not going to get into them. But anyway, so they're less than 10% of the population, and naturally, when the country collapsed into chaos, obviously they were going to take up arms as basically just an auto defense force, okay, to defend themselves. So the EU in this statement is implying that a grossly outnumbered group of people is out there basically doing reprisal killings against the Houthi regime, which is not the frickin' case. They simply armed themselves to protect themselves, and then when the Sunni horde came to slaughter them, they fired. Some of them shot back, resulting in gun battles. Okay, so the EU is condemning these pro-Assad forces, which is a nice frickin' easy NPC brain vector type of verbal trick. Okay.
Well, here, let's listen to the statement.
Yeah.
Let's listen to the statement. It's 10 seconds. Oh, no, the tweet doesn't even have the statement. It's just it's just a little video of the flag waving. My bad.
Shame.
That's the video.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's disappointing.
Well, I guess let's talk about. I guess we can conclude with. Well, anyway. So that's what's been going on in Syria. No surprise. No surprise.
Oh, here we go. Here's a transcript of the statement. Okay. It's kind of hard to read. See what I can do with it. The European Union strongly condemns the recent attacks reportedly by pro-Assad elements on interim government forces in the coastal areas of Syria and all violence against civilians. Civilians have to be protected in all circumstances in full respect of international humanitarian law. The EU also calls on all external actors to fully respect the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of Syria. The EU condemns any attempts to undermine stability and the prospects for a lasting peaceful transition, inclusive and respectful of all Syrians in their diversity.
Mhm.
And there they go, using the word diversity like it is in and of itself a positive.
You look at, I mean, leftist speech looks like it just came like out of an auto generator, like a text generator.
Yeah.
You basically input a series of buzzwords as like the as the base level, as like the baseline algorithm. It's just disgusting. Nothing in that statement made any sense. It's like that clip from that old movie where it's like everything you just said, in fact, made everybody more stupid. May God have mercy on your soul. Like, respect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Syria.
Yeah.
There is none. What are you talking about? So I guess we're on the tail end of the show here. So let's kind of talk about a little more about who's responsible for what's going on here. Okay, the three main governmental act or nations, okay, that are mostly responsible for what's been going on here are, I'd say, Turkey, the United States, and Israel. Okay, Turkey, basically, pull up that map again if you want, the inset, if you would, Chris.
Give it a second. It's loading. Go ahead.
Got it. So Turkey, because basically Turkey is responsible for the destabilization of Syria because of their eternal bloodlust for the Kurdish people, right? They simply cannot. The Kurds have been running kind of like have paramilitary organizations in Turkey. All right, the Kurds are also, at least for the last few decades, have really bought into like communist liberation ideology. Okay, so they are basically Islamo-communists operating in the eastern portion of Turkey, and of course, as all things in the Middle East, nothing stays contained within borders. Every problem in the Middle East is always like a intra-border issue, right? So the northeast of Syria is controlled by basically Kurdish fighters, Kurdish militias, and whatever local governments they have set up. And Turkey really wants to put a pounding on these people. All right, basically subdue them once and for all. So for their interest in basically eradicating the Kurds from any sort of power now and in the future, they have to stabilize Syria. The United States, okay, responsible for financing terrorism, financing ISIS, okay, in partnership with Israel. All right, and basically just doing what we normally do. Find the most backwards, savage group of Islamo cavemen, give them pallets of weapons, cash, and explosives, and send them on their merry way. Like just cleaving a path of destruction, kind of wherever we kind of nudge them towards. Okay, kind of hands off. Just let the Islamo-fascists do what Islamo-fascists do. All you got to do is provide the basic materials. Okay, like a fucking chia pet. So the United States is, and because the United States hates the Assad regime, because the Assad regime is pro-Russia, because the United States, unlike
Russia.
unlike the exact opposite of what Obama said in 2012 about 1980s wanting their foreign policy back. No, it is in fact the Democrats who are, and to actually, it's not just the Democrats. That's not fair. A large portion of the Republican Party as well are seemingly trapped in this paradigm where we have to be ideologically and militarily opposed to Russia for reasons that
Well, the
I don't necessarily understand.
The gerontocracy misses the Cold War. They were getting high on that supply, and they want to get back to it.
That's, you know what?
They're scared to death that they're not going to be able to make billions more dollars off of the Cold War before they turn 130 and finally run out of fucking adrenochrome.
We have you really point to something really important there, and that would be worthy of an episode unto itself. But yes, not just the United States, but the Western world, Europe included, is essentially run by a gerontocracy. Okay, septuagenarians, octogenarians. Okay, you got more of them in power than ever would be in previous generations because of medicine, right? But you've got
we finally got rid of Biden, right? After half a century,
I know,
not
right?
Biden wasn't 50 years old. His political career was 50 years old.
Yeah, yeah. But the gerontocracy essentially running society into the dirt because they basically clinging to the dreams of their youth, all right, which was, communism light, you know, um, liberal democracy, okay, um, clinging to the dreams of their past, and those dreams didn't work out. And even worse, those dreams are actively destroying the present day societies in those countries. Okay, and they cannot stop. They will not change direction. Like an old dog won't learn new tricks. All right, they are hell bent on leading their nations onto ruin because they refuse to they refuse to admit that they were wrong, and everything that they've created needs to be essentially
Well,
either.
it's even Mario. It's even worse than that because you talk about the septuagenarians, the octogenarians that have been in elected office for longer than some of us have been alive, even. And the fact is, these were young people when America was successful and free who became communists of some ilk or another, got into office, went after the socialist policies. They went after the Great Society type stuff, the welfare programs, all that kind of stuff. And here's the real dark secret of the whole thing is at every turn they got everything they wanted. It went badly, and their solution to the problem that was caused by their bad decisions to begin with was to double down and do the same thing more.
Yeah.
That's why we have a national debt at all. Our national debt is roughly identical to the total cost of the Great Society welfare state since its inception under Lyndon Baines Johnson. The all of our economic problems can be very well laid at the feet of the Democrat attempting to subsidize poverty in order to purchase votes from the unwashed masses by expanding the size of America's poverty class.
Yeah, Landis. I agree. And just so you just to I'll say it. I mean, obviously, I'd be a hypocrite, but I mean, yeah, like Donald Trump is 80. Okay, like it's still, you know what I mean. It's not. Thankfully, with Donald Trump, I think he got maybe one of the last leaders, the last great leaders of his generation. Okay, so we're getting the last bit of him before he expires. All right, but other countries, basically not all boomers are equal.
No.
Trump,
Shit.
Trump is like the preeminent boomer. Okay, you can get, and then like let's say
and putting him in office at 80, we're about to squeeze every last drop of juice out of that particular orange.
come on, Donald, give me another drop of winning. Come on. Whereas you look at say Germany with Chancellor Merz. Okay, if you want, I don't know if you could pull up a picture of this guy. Like that would be the exact opposite of a Trump. Like the worst of the boomers.
Chancellor Merz.
Yeah, MERZ. That's his name. MERZ. Mike Echo Romeo Zulu.
I found Friedrich Merz.
Is it like a sad looking man with a horrific balding pattern?
Oh, yes. This guy? Wait. It's loading. Yeah. You'll see him in a second.
Yeah.
But I guess this guy?
Oh, that's actually a favorable photograph of him. But yeah, still.
Oh, wow.
That's the cameraman doing him favors. But yeah, this is the guy currently running Germany. So does that inspire confidence in you? I would think not. Yeah, these are all older. These aren't recent photos of him. These are photos of him back in the from about 10 years ago. Anyway, who cares? This guy, I don't think this guy's not going to He's not going to be in office long anyway. There you go. There you go.
That's from sometime in the past 6 months.
That's recent, correct. Mm-hmm.
And you're right.
There you go. You could post.
He looks like if he hadn't been elected, he would be driving a white panel van.
Right, with a whatever. How do you say candy in German? Never mind. But yeah, so not all boomers are equal.
They are not. All right. Well, it is. We've pushed to the hour now, so that's a good start. That's a good one for today, guys. Mario and I did a show Saturday night that was Rumble Premium exclusive. We're going to be doing that. We got to do at least 5 hours of that a month to stay in the creator program. So that's where we're going to do stuff like that'll probably be where we do the gerontocracy conversation, stuff like that. So keep an eyeball out for that. The way we're going to do those to try and maximize participation, because I have the technology to do it, whenever we do the Rumble Premium exclusive streams where you've got to be a Rumble Premium subscriber, those will start on all platforms just like we're doing a regular live show, and we'll go 10 or 15 minutes, right? And then we'll cut it down to the premium only audience, and we'll give you'll have 10 or 15 minutes of us just kind of chit-chatting with you and getting ready, cracking a few jokes, and encouraging you to go and subscribe to premium so that you can help this show generate some additional revenue and expand the show. The objective, of course, is to get Mario and Cameron to quit their jobs.
Yeah. Well.
Right. And hey, I wouldn't mind quitting my job. I could stand to retire again.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, I wanted to point out in the chat, Darkwoods Presents. Okay, I hadn't seen you before, so thanks for dropping in. Thanks for dropping in comments.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I couldn't get to most of your comments there, but I just wanted to mention as a general thematic of what this guy is saying. NPCs are the vehicle through which manufactured consent, can effectively direct a society. So yeah, you are spot on with that, Darkwoods. Thank you.
In fact,
yes, Sergeant Major, I'm sorry. Okay, I go hard on rumors. Okay, I don't mean to, and I know that if I ever visit the ranch, Sergeant Major is going to be standing there like, "Hey, Mario, well, look, here's your tent, here's your sleeping bag." Okay, and, the high ground is about 1 kilometer that way, so I want to get started, and I'll see you at dinner. So. I'm sorry, Sergeant Major.
In fairness, if Sergeant Major handed you a tent and a sleeping bag to sleep on the ranch over there, that would be more comfortable than most of the couches that you might crash on if you found yourself in dire straits and went asking one of your buddies for help.
Yeah, because you blew out all the couches. How many times did your father have to tell you don't sit down so fast on the furniture growing up?
That actually was a thing. I've had to buy a few extra couches in my life, and I'm really careful to sit down slowly on furniture.
Yeah,
but I've been through a lot of plastic lawn chairs in my life too.
Yeah.
Also, some of the more expensive ladders. But anyway, so thanks for watching this morning, guys. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.
Ciao.
Okay, I'm pushing buttons and things are happening slowly.